Welcome, residents, to the Dr. DC podcast. My name is producer Richard, and next to me is the doctor himself.
Hello.
Each week, we talk about the weird and wonderful world of DC while fielding questions from listeners like you. Today, we are joined by writer, creator, and senior editor at IDW. Welcome, Heather Antos.
Hi.
Oh, my God.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
This is so exciting, especially because I think that we've had a lot of like Marvel and DC folks, but not a lot of the other other companies, I think.
Well, no, that's true. And also, you know, in our endeavor to get more comic creators on the podcast, I think you might be the first editor that we've had on.
You might be right.
I get that a lot. That I'm the first editor, and to be fair, I was at Marvel, so.
Oh, that's right. True. There we go.
That's right.
I've been everywhere.
Because Star Wars and Marvel and that's awesome.
Who was your favorite? Say it.
Oh my God. Well, I mean, kind of on that note, I feel like the general public probably has a increasing awareness of the role of an editor.
Yeah.
And like as part of a creative team, but just very briefly, do you want to maybe sum up how you view your role as a creator?
As an editor, I view my role as a glorified babysitter. Right? Like that.
I love that.
No, so in more complex terms, but how I always describe, because I go to a lot of universities, I'll do speaking with illustration classes and stuff there. And I say, my job as an editor is to get the creator to do what it is they say they're going to do when they say that it is they're going to do it to the very best of their ability,
right? And
want to do it again.
Right.
That's really kind of the role on top of all the more corporate businessy side stuff. I equate the role to probably similar to like a showrunner or a TV producer and film. We are creators. We source ideas. We'll pitch ideas. We'll cast talent. We have to maintain schedules and deadlines and budgets and coordinate all for multiple projects at a time.
Sounds really easy.
It's so easy. It's so easy. I love spreadsheets though. So I think I'm this weird, like perfect blend of, I love being creative and I love doing all the creative stuff, but I love making schedules and I love doing like budgets and making sure everything works out. Like I was the kid who took calculus for fun in college, that's
right.
I don't know. I'm weird.
So then what was your path to editing? Was it from more of the creative side or was it from more of the kind of organization?
You came in with like a pile of papers and was like, this is so disorganized. Someone needs to fix it.
A little bit of both, honestly.
Nice.
So yeah, sorry for the complex answer.
No, that's good.
So my mom would always say I drew comics before I knew what comics were.
Right.
I've been writing and drawing my own stories literally since I was a little kid and would show them around and make everyone read them. So like that was always just kind of part of my life. I didn't really read comics until much later because I grew up from a very small town in the Midwest where a comic shop just wasn't really a thing.
Sure.
But telling stories and being creative was always a huge part of my life. And so growing up, I began working professionally in theater and film, and I, studied that in college as well. And college is when I started reading comics because it was a bigger city and, comic shops were a thing. Not only was there one, there were several. Right. And throughout this time, I started working as a producer, as a director, as a performer in different, TV, stage play, stuff. And when I was trying to figure out, I'm 22, graduating, what's life beyond this? I don't really want to go to LA. That seems awful. A friend said to me, well, you really like comics. Why don't you just do that?
Oh, that easy thing.
Yes, just do that. And up until that point, it had never really crossed my mind that like, oh yeah, this is something that people do. This is a job. Like this is something you can pursue because, you know, it's not every day that you have the writer of Superman come to career day at school. Like that doesn't happen.
True.
And so I really just began researching how to do this. And I came across this role of an editor that it was a puzzle to me. You know, I know essentially what an editor does for your traditional novels or like a, you know, a website journalist, things like that. Like you're working with one person, one writer, like you're not coordinating this endeavor within a universe, you know? And that's when I noticed that, oh, the same editors are on the same books that I read. Like there was a pattern I was noticing. So whatever these people were doing was resonating me. So like any good millennial, I just started tweeting these editors.
Obviously.
Twitter wasn't as crazy as it is now. But yeah, I that's how I met Jordan White. I literally tweeted him. He was going to be at a convention that I was going to be at. And he sat down with me for an hour, talked to me what comic book editing was. And I left that convention knowing like, this is it. This is what I want to do.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
It's interesting because I mean, you must get the same thing now, right? Like, I mean, I don't know how often people want to be editors, but I can imagine, especially, I mean, it's no small feat also being a woman in this industry, right? And so I wonder, do you get like women coming up to you and like being like, this is incredible. How did you get into this?
Yeah, I am very aware that I would not be where I am right now if I didn't have people, you know, showing me the way and opening doors and giving me information just because they could. And so I am very, very happy to give informational interviews. And, you know, that's why I like doing podcasts like this. Because again, when I was coming up, podcasts really weren't a thing. And so I love talking about what I do and going to schools. And, you know, I always, whenever I have interns, I'm always like, please reach out, like talk to me, like, I will look over anything. And I mean it, like, I will, I want to help you guys out. And, you know, it's part of why I started, Signal Boost Sunday years ago on Twitter, as a thing to just like, I have this platform, I have this information, like the least I can do is help get someone else seen. Because you never know, right? That's all it takes is just that one person to see your work and to believe in it. And it's important.
Yeah. That's awesome. So you talked about how you started kind of really reading comics when you got to college. Obviously, we have like a topic we're going to talk about today, but what were some of like the things that like really grabbed you? Like, what are some of your favorite things that you were reading?
Yeah. So to segue into that topic, we'll get there. We'll get there. I assume people will know from the title of this episode.
Yes.
But,
yeah. I'm playing coy for no reason.
Who knows? People might not read. It might just go. But
I just press play and don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so growing up, back to growing up, like, though I didn't read comics, it was still very much a part of my life in some way, whether it was fighting over the Sunday, you know, morning news strips with my brothers, or, you know, my favorite television show growing up was the Adam West Ward Batman television show. Like that was one of my favorites. My first crush that I remember was Chris O'Donnell as Robin.
Oh, sure. Hell yeah. doing his laundry with the
when he wants to be named Nightwing. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So I mean, superheroes, like all of that, it was always very much a part of my zeitgeist, even though I wasn't actively reading. And then in college, we had an American literature class that I took. And in that, there was a section on graphic novels. There was a section on comics. And, you know, we read things like Mouse. We read things like Sandman. And Sandman was really, you know, what I credit as this is the book that made me want to make comics.
Sure. Yeah.
In particular, I always, it's the most fucked up issue in all of comics ever, but it's the one that I was like, oh, I want to do that. Is 24-Hour Diner, Volume 2, Issue 6, where it's a beautiful, in quotes, standalone issue. But if you've read everything leading up to that, it also has this huge payoff.
Yeah.
And I was just so in awe that like, oh, this is really cool. Like you can't do this in other mediums. And I mean, Sam Keith and J.H. Williams, like all the artists that worked with me on that series are just incredible. And so, you know, that really got me into a lot of the classic Vertigo of the 80s and 90s, Hellblazer, Transmetropolitan, you know, all of that stuff. And anyone who knows my love of horror and true crime and thrillers, all of this makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But I was never really into superhero comics. And a part of that is, you know, it's the, you know, old tale that we hear time and time again. They didn't feel like they were for me.
Sure.
You know, it felt like it was just macho men, damsels in distress. There's thousands of issues. Where the fuck do I start? How do I pick up like all of this stuff?
Sure.
It felt like a lot. I enjoyed the Marvel films. I enjoyed the DC films, but I just, you know, didn't know where to go. And this was towards the end of college, like kind of around the same time, right before I decided to pursue comics. They announced this movie called Green Lantern.
Oh, I remember being so excited.
I know.
Why? What happened?
You can watch it. We'll let you discover for yourself.
Okay, I'm so excited.
But they announced this movie, and like any 21-year-old, you know, any woman, like, oh my God, Ryan Reynolds, like, I'm so excited. I have to see this movie. And I don't know why. I think it was like the perfect kismet of, I took this class, comics were now becoming like more accessible to me.
Right.
And I didn't really know anything about Green Lantern.
Right.
So I decided to look up, you know, where does the story come from? Where do I start? And that's when I ordered, like, it was Emerald Dawn and Secret Origins, I think were the two books that they're saying that movie that was most inspired by. And I just consumed them. I just became obsessed. I loved them so much. They were so good. It was around the same time that DC's New 52 was really kicking off. And so it's funny because I started my professional career at Marvel, but all I read up until then was DC. I just read all DC
Hell
comics,
yeah.
and I consumed everything. And then the one Marvel book I read was Deadpool. That was the one.
Right,
I read Deadpool and then everything DC Comics. And you guys will appreciate this because when I started interviewing for Marvel, I was like, oh man, I guess I better read some. I guess I better start picking some.
Incredible.
That's amazing.
I love it.
I love that. Well, we got lots of questions about Green Lantern.
Oh my God.
So
I've not actively read Green Lantern in so long now, so I'm very nervous.
That's okay. That is all.
He's the expert. Don't worry about it.
I'm the quote unquote expert, and even that's a pretty loose term.
No, he's got his degree in DC, and if he's wrong, come for him.
Oh no!
Man.
Oh no!
Man. That's me in Star Wars, so I get it.
All right. Well, why don't we jump into some questions?
Sure.
And we're going to start off on Facebook.
Go to the face and the book. Go to the Facebook.
That's right. Really catchy song that we wrote, and it's very original. First question comes from Ryan Putney, who asks, one of the things that got me into Green Lantern was the fact that the ring is powered by will, and found it to be inspirational for those like myself who suffer from mental disorders like anxiety and depression. What are some great stories or moments that exemplify any Green Lantern's willpower? Lastly, what is it that draws or drew you into Green Lantern?
Oh.
Oh my God, that's best moments.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can say like exact specific moments, but like, no, I think that's a great descriptor of why Green Lantern resonates with so many different people. Like even the various, the various Green Lanterns. I personally, Kyle Rayner for life. He's my favorite.
Sure.
He's an artist, so I think.
Sure.
Yes,
of course.
there
Yeah.
we go, yeah.
I love that it comes from the beholder, right? The power comes from the user.
Yeah.
With any of the rings. One of my favorite Shakespeare quotes is, it's not in our stars to choose our destiny, but it's in ourselves. And, I think that's something that is very, very, very inspiring about this corner of the DC universe. You're not a chosen one. Technically you are a chosen one because the ring chooses you, but but anyone could pick it up and use it if they got their hands on it.
Mm-hmm. I remember the thing that initially hooked me with the idea of Green Lantern. The reason I was so excited when they announced the movie was because growing up, my dad just told me about Green Lantern. Like I learned a bunch of comics from my dad, and he told me. I think he was telling me about like Alan Scott, like the golden.
Yeah, with the like red costume.
Worst
too.
Oh my god! There's so many colors.
Green Lantern, but he's gonna be in red, like
purple
with a purple
green,
cape and a brown belt.
Yeah.
But it was the idea that like he had this ring and he could make anything he could think of, and like that was like how my dad distilled it for me, and I was like, well, that's a crazy power, that's wild. And but yeah, I think the moments that stand out for me in Green Lantern are where that thing that's inside, the like will overcoming fear thing, can get like translated outward. There's that moment in the Sinestro Corps War where they're attacking Coast City, and all the like regular citizens, the like residents of Coast City, just put like green lights in their windows. They like refuse to leave the city because it's I don't know. It's
you love people coming together.
I love like people coming together. I love like you want to get to Spider-Man, you go through us. I love that. That kind of shit. So
I would say, kind of along that, like I think Brightest Day was really cool about that for me, is especially coming after the Blackest Night when everything was just like, oh man, it's Dark Night all over again. Everything is so sad and dark and and so like having Brightest Day and further exploring the mythology and meeting all these other characters and in a more positive light, that. And that to me, like, that's what Green Lantern is. It's like this cosmic hope.
Yeah.
Or should be.
It
should be. I get why Red Lantern has its own book. I get why Orange Lantern had its own book, but oh my god, those are some of the most like upsetting reads.
Well, I mean, even I think you're right. I think it is about the sort of like light and the darkness thing. Because Kyle Rayner, your boy, your favorite one, his whole thing is like the core is gone. Yeah. You're the last hope, right? Yeah. And he keeps that alive basically by himself, essentially, until Hal and the core come back
to life.
More or less. You know what I mean? So it is that kind of like if even just like one person is inspired enough, the whole thing can survive and make things better and stuff like that. I think that's pretty cool.
I just really like cops.
Oh no!
Didn't we know?
Sticker.
Thin blue line all the way.
A glab.
All Green Lanterns are bad.
Jesus.
Incredible. All right, let's go to the next question. All right, from Scott Newcomer, who asks, how do you think the other human Green Lanterns would have behaved/handled the events leading up to and during Emerald Twilight? Assume the destruction of Coast City is replaced with the respective Lanterns' home city. So
for those at home, just the quick reminder, Emerald Twilight happens just after kind of like Reign of the Supermen and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Cyborg, Superman, and Mongol destroy Coast City.
Yeah.
Hal Jordan tries to bring it back just with the ring. The Guardians are like, that's selfish. Don't do that. And he goes,
I've done so fucking much.
I'm going to do it even more.
Yeah.
And he destroys the core and he goes bad and he becomes Parallax. It's later retconned that he's half kind of possessed, influenced by the fear entity, but it was the big Hal goes bad kind of arc. So the question is,
how the other human?
Yeah, like is that a failure just of Hal's? If in the same circumstances, would Kyle have done that? Would John? Would Guy? I guess.
Guy definitely would. I mean,
I knew we liked her for a reason.
Yeah.
I mean, Guy's an asshole. God, man, I hate Guy Gardner. Can you tell?
I feel like I agree. Guy would do it, but I don't know that. I think Guy would like also then just like stop. Like he'd like turn bad, do something horrible, blow up the core, and then he'd be like the rage would fizzle out of him. Like Hal,
he would get bored. He would move. Yeah, no, Hal is fucking stubborn. Like
Hal's too focused. It's the indomitable will thing. He's like, I won't stop until I rewrite everything. A Guy would be like, I worked it out of my system, and he'd be.
Hal very clearly has undiagnosed adult ADHD. He gets very hyperfixated.
Oh, interesting.
I like this.
Interesting.
John, I don't think John is such like a solution-oriented problem solver, and I feel I don't think he would do. I think he would find another way.
Yeah. I think John is also kind of a moper, because that's what he does after Xanchi explodes too. He basically mopes for a while.
Yeah. Kyle, I could go either way on.
Interesting.
I think I could see him not as destructive as Hal would be,
right?
But definitely pissed off about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's Kyle? Sorry, what's his hometown?
Oh, I think he might also be in Coat City. I don't remember.
So.
Who came from?
Yeah. Hey, listen. They just got more will there. Something in the water.
Yeah. Look, it's DC Comics. As long as it's America, that's all that matters.
It is a lot of America.
Yeah.
Trying to see where it says he's from. I don't know.
I feel like it was Coast City. I'm barely remembering the end of Emerald Twilight here. But, yeah, I mean, my favorite take out of this is that Guy would absolutely do it and then would move on.
Yeah. I love that. That's incredible.
He's like, I destroyed this city and now I'm going to go find 5 more.
I love that.
Los Angeles.
Oh, LA thing. Okay, so
who cares about LA? Yeah, come on.
Yeah. It's that weird DC thing where it's like there are cities that are kind of meant to be cities, but then those cities also
but then those cities also exist. Yeah. I was like, Coast City is LA.
Like the idea that like Metropolis and New York both basically have to be in New York State, and Gotham is in New Jersey.
So funny.
So, like, I think Coast City's like Studio City, and then you have Burbank, right? Like,
sure. Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
I love that. All right, let's go on to the next question, which means we're leaving Facebook and going over to Twitter.
That's Twitter.
That's right. First question comes from Mosaic Comics, who asks, with a few brief exceptions, the yellow weakness has been gone for nearly 30 years. Looking back, was it really as silly as everyone thought? Was it ubiquity, an appropriate balance for the power and versatility of the ring? Did the Parallax retcon redeem this weakness?
Right. So the broad question is, was it silly for Green Lantern's weakness to be the color yellow?
I think, is it silly for a weakness to be a color? Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, yes, unless, well, no, I want to get into like actual physiology of light, but I was just like, unless you talk about how it's the light and then the weakness is black, which is the absence of light, and then you want to go
there we go
all of that, right? But even if that was the case, the weakness of green shouldn't be yellow, because if you want to get into color theory,
blue and yellow make green.
Blue and yellow make green. Like, you would think the weakness would be red, which neutralizes it.
Oh,
right.
You have to be that nerd. I like that.
I mean, I like listen, this is the thing we talk about it all the time, especially with characters that go back as far as even just this concept goes back. Like, Alan Scott's weakness was wood. That's arguably sillier, but they found a way to justify that. And it's because, the star heart is kind of connected to like life energy. So why would it hurt itself? Right. And the idea that like plants are part of it, they find a justification. And in the same way, is yellow silly on its own? Yes. But I don't know. I like the evolving retcon justification of like green is will. What's the, we already have yellow.
Yeah.
Yellow is fear. Like, I think that does a good job of it. But yeah, if you just take it on its face value, it's arguably silly.
If you're just looking at like, is the color yellow as his weakness ridiculous? But yes, it is. Also, yellow is the worst color. So I'm totally on board with this.
Yellow is the worst color? That's the stance you're taking?
I hate the color yellow. Literally, it's the color of warning signs. Hello.
Wow.
All right. We're throwing down.
We're gonna get yellow stands in the comments.
It's a color of creativity, huh, Heather?
No, it's not.
I think that's a definitive answer. No, I like the parallax retcon. I like that it's fear. I like in general a lot of the emotional spectrum stuff. I think it's funny / maybe a little bit sad that sadness and joy don't make it into the spectrum. But I do get the idea that I think it was an interview that I read or something that the idea is that they were like motivations as opposed to just like the normal wheel of emotions, like what you would learn in kindergarten or something. It's not like jealousy and greed is close, but you know what I mean? Like, I like the idea that they're kind of like motivating things. Are you motivated by fear? Are you motivated by determination? Are you motivated by, anger or all those things?
I would really love to have like, I want to get like a behavioral psychologist and really talk about like because a lot of times, a lot of the lantern emotional core are derivatives of fear, like a lot of times rage is a derivative of fear. Like it comes from fear. And so like if there was a way to work that into a Green Lantern story in like a really cool re-retconning way almost like I think I just think there's some potential there.
This is the
really, really cool.
This is the Star Wars coming out. Fear leads to anger.
Hurt people, Reed.
Oh my god. I like that.
All right, let's go to the next question from Dave Rossi, who asks, is there a set of rules for the ring? When a ring bearer imagines something, is the ring accessing an accumulated database, or is it a wish machine? Could one conjure kryptonite, for instance, or a quantum singularity just by thinking about it? What are its limits in that regard?
Whatever the cloud can hold. No.
All praise the cloud.
I think I've gotten into this with the guys who forgot the Lantern cast before. My stance is firmly like, yeah, you can make kryptonite with it.
Really?
Because, and my justification of it is, not everything they make is a glowing, transparent construct. Like their uniforms. That's material. Look how their uniforms work. They put the ring on, they get a uniform, and it moves like fabric. It touches like fabric.
So what you're saying?
Like, there are things there, unconscious or otherwise, that get fully materialized into reality via the power of...
But if you're going to make like a giant hammer, there's no point of making it the most realistic hammer. You just need the shape of a hammer.
Basically.
Yeah, but unless you're a stickler for detail.
Maybe so if Heather had a Green Lantern ring.
Well, so with
that's
this,
an editor's mind.
With the editor lens and your history of reading these things, what's your take on the kind of rules of the power?
My take is the editor lens is everything is canon until it isn't. And
right, of course.
So whatever you need to serve the story, so long as it happens in an organic way.
Sure.
Like that, I mean, like there's a lot of people out there who get angry about retcons or ignoring previous, like whatever, blah, blah, blah. look, these things have been around for going on 100 years. You're gonna fuck up. Like,
yes,
and
yeah.
also some of that shit sucks. I'm sorry. Yellow being the weakness of the Green Lantern, that sucks. It's stupid.
Sure.
So, you know, with that, having that been in mind, like, so long as all the context is within the story itself and we're explaining, you know, it's there and makes sense and is motivating and serving the story, then I don't fucking care what the rules are. Like, just so long as, you know, they're not just so the story can happen.
Right.
Because we've all seen that stuff of like, oh, or there happens to be a flashlight just sitting there so he can pick it up because he need, you know.
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
So that's kind of like my take. Is it the juiciest take? No, but that's telling good stories.
To a couple of those like specific questions in there, is it a wish machine or is it a central it is kind of like a central, like the Book of Oa is this thing in the comics that is everything that has ever existed or whatever. And all of the rings are like extremely advanced kind of technology that's sort of pseudo computer, pseudo intelligence, all these other things. And so there is like a collective knowledge base and database. You know, there are comics where they go like ring, what is this, like explicitly, and then there are other comics where they just go like, oh, I'm just accessing like, oh, this planet did whatever so long ago, and
and it's a cosmic alien entity that has existed since the beginning of time. We can't possibly understand it, and therefore, which is great with the creators, what the creators did, because it lends itself to allowing us to do whatever the fuck we want to as storytellers. You know,
but then the interesting piece too is, let's say the ring knows what a hammer is.
Yeah.
They also in the comics have done the thing where the bearer also is part of what goes into the construct, right? Mm-hmm. John Stewart's an architect. His constructs are like canonically more detailed and like structural. Kyle is an artist. His constructs are like canonically more creative and, you know, kind of free form. You know, Guy has like his ring sometimes just sparks because there's just so much going on there and it just can't keep it in. Like, I like the sort of blend of like, there's like a database, but it's also not like ring, like you cycle through, you go like, I'll use hammer A for this.
I imagine it's like, operator, we need a Camaro 1965. It's, you know, like, what do you have in store? It's not, no,
it's like the Batmobile you just put in the book. In
the old 60s Batman. Yeah, it's my favorite thing. They put the whole phone book into the computer and it's just, they press no buttons and one little slip of paper comes out that tells them where to go. Yeah.
Perfect. What more do you need?
Exactly.
It's perfect.
Exactly. All right, let's go to the next question.
Sure.
Speaking of the Lantern Cast,
all right,
who asks, I've asked.
Oh, they're already rebutting.
Oh no.
Are they here? Where are they?
Yeah, all they say is yellow is a great color.
That's amazing. That's very funny.
No, they say
tell them I'm never going on their podcast.
Oh no.
Sorry, Lantern Cast. They ask, I've asked it before, but with each new person, I must ask again. Can Hal Jordan truly be redeemed?
Right. And I think an alternate phrasing of this question that we may have tackled before is, how much do we buy into the parallax retcon? How much of that is like actual possession versus, I mean, even in the retcon, he doesn't have parallax in him when he does a bunch of Emerald Twilight. It only happens when he lets it out of the battery, right?
Look, my whole thing, and this comes from, again, taking the mental health and all of this, like, you know, we all have, you know, whether you're diagnosed or not, we all have some form of anxiety. We all suffer,
we do.
You know,
woo,
woo. We all, you know, like whether clinical or not, we all deal with depression. You know, we all deal with the same emotional spectrum.
Preach.
But it's, you know, how we choose to act on that and how we choose to get, you know, there are people who like, man, I'm pissed and I'm just going to sit and be pissed because I want to sit and be pissed because that's a thing that I can do, and fuck anyone else who, you know, like blah, 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 blah.
Hell yeah.
Or we can be like, wow, I feel like shit today. I should do something about that. and take responsibility. Not to get too preachy, but like that's kind of, you know, that's kind of how I view it. And like, can he be redeemed? Depends on your definition of redeemed, but I think, you know, it's like if you have a friend who has a bad day and decides to like crash their car into yours because fuck you, you had a great day and that's not fair because I had a bad day. Like, you're gonna have to do a lot of shit to like, you know, to make up for that. And so I think, you know, taking accountability and like, wow, I did allow this to happen. I let this in, and I now have to spend time making amends, really, for the rest of my life, for what he did for the rest of his life and beyond.
Well, and I mean, there's the component that you're talking about here too, which is like redemption isn't like an inside thing.
No, it's an outside thing.
If everyone around him has, you know, given him back their trust and their, you know, if they put that back on him, that's a form of redemption. They clearly have decided on their personal scales that he has either made up for it enough or was unculpable enough that they can trust him again, and he could be on the team and he can lead the core and he could do those things. So there's a piece of that to it too, but also like he cosmically sought redemption, right? When he was the Spectre, he like tried to make the mission of the Spectre instead of vengeance. He was like, it's going to be redemption for everybody. And the whole arc of that book is that that's not really what the Spectre's there for. And if you're seeking that, you got to kind of figure something else out, you know, all these things we've been talking about. So I guess my argument is whether or not he was actually personally to blame and in what degree, if people forgive him, he's redeemed. That's what that is. You know what I mean? There's
forgiveness and redemption, I don't know, are two different
but there's
things,
not like an objective like tally, I think, is what I'm saying. It's all the
I'm keeping track in. I don't know.
It's got a list.
I don't know. The numbers aren't looking great. All right, let's go to the next question.
Sure.
From Alex Jaffe, who asks, are the Guardians of the Universe tyrants, incompetent, or both?
Oh, yes.
I think we're done here.
I mean, that is the correct answer.
Yes.
Is there an argument to be had?
You know, the idea that they unilaterally were like, we made a police force. You're welcome.
When has that ever gone wrong?
But also they're like, wait, that answers to whom and on what authority?
Shut up.
We didn't
How about
sign
that?
up. Yeah.
And it has unlimited power and
tanks.
And we did that after our last police force went crazy.
Yeah. But we got it this time.
Yeah.
It's kind of like they're kind of like how I feel about the Watchers in the Marvel universe, right? Like it's just like, oh, these all powerful beings that are just gonna sit there and be like, huh, interesting.
Yeah.
Who watches the Watchers?
I mean, what a thing I find interesting is like they are, for being these kind of immortal, you know, kind of cosmically wise, extremely powerful beings, they are like deeply flawed, like almost like Olympian level flawed, like the hubris of them to be like, emotions don't affect us. And then they go like, shit, we can't let this thing get out, cover it up. Like they're always driven by fear or, you know, things like that. The very things they expect these mortals to be better than, they're like, we are absolutely not better than that.
No. That's really funny. Okay, let's go to the next question then.
Let's do it.
From Greg Fine, who asks, which of Kyle's currently living exes was he best with? Soranik, Donna, Jade, or Carol?
Ooh, interesting.
Oh my God.
The Carol one was weird to me.
Yeah, why?
That was a new, because Carol and Hal are the couple to me.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
That was it was a weird one. I didn't necessarily hate it, but it felt odd.
It felt weird. It's like Wonder Woman and Batman together. Like it's just like
or like Nightwing and Catwoman. I'd be like, I don't like this.
This is weird.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Yeah.
That's very fun.
I don't know.
I
I didn't hate Donna.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Hot
I
take.
didn't hate Donna.
That's kind of early days Kyle Rayner.
Yeah,
I think when
yeah.
he's like getting his footing with the league. And
He's not quite. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if he's. I don't know.
I mean,
Do you know Heather?
I don't.
I'd maybe say Jade because I like that character, and I think it was an interesting kind of like you get this sort of connection all the way back to the roots of Green Lantern, and then you also have like Kyle's your torchbearer. He's like the shining new boy kind of thing. I that maybe that's a little too.
Weren't they roommates? Isn't that how they like?
I think so.
Met?
Yes.
That's
I'll throw in
nice.
I'll throw it. Oh, I've never started dating a roommate before.
Yeah, I've never. No.
I'll throw one more in that list. Even though it's very brief, I kind of liked his. Even though it was sort of built on lies, I liked the little relationship he had with Princess Callista in.
Oh my god,
Omegaman. I was a little bit into that.
I love Omegaman. I think Omegaman is like one of the best, most underrated.
Yeah.
comics.
Yeah. It's terrific.
It's so good. It is so good.
Love that. All right. Well, let's move on.
Let's do it.
Why don't we leave Twitter and head on over to Instagram?
Now we're going to Instagram, take some questions and answer them.
Instagram gets a lot of love. And we only have 2 questions from there. First question comes from Stump Chunkman. Step into the stump. You're Stump Chunkman. We haven't done it in a long time.
That's true. We haven't.
Who asks, why does Earth have so many people that get rings if Earth is only in one sector? Great question. Shut up.
Because humans are naturally narcissistic and ego-driven species, so naturally, as writers, we would have it all take place here.
Yeah, obviously, and we rule.
Well, it's
humans number 1.
I mean, there's kind of that thing. I mean, it's the thing where there's like the meta component of like, we are humans. We want to read and write human characters.
Yeah.
But we also want to see new lanterns. So that's what happens.
Yeah.
It's the same thing in Star Trek as like, yeah, there's a federation, but like most of these ships are humans.
Yes.
It's just like, that's just like, we can't afford all those costumes and stuff like that. Like there's like the meta level.
It's weird. Everyone's humanoid.
But then there's they always have to have some sort of like in-universe justification. In Star Trek, they're like, oh, a bunch of planets in the galaxy got seeded by one progenitor species. That's why you all look roughly the same. And then there's, I would say in DC,
But Romulans are not Vulcans.
In DC, they've kind of made a point of... my goodness. They made a point that, I think it's in Blackest Night, where they were like, we tried to kind of keep Earth out of it. Because Earth is actually where life began, not on Maltus. We lied again. We're the Guardians. And I think they tried to set it up where it's like the reason they had excluded Earth and humans for so long was to try and throw these cosmic, like Necron, off the scent of where life was. It's a retcon, but like it works as well as anything. But then they go like, but I mean, we got to be honest. No one's got more will than humanity. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite of kind of like some of the newer? Obviously, Kyle's your boy, but
yeah.
Have you read the stuff with like Joe Mullane or Simon or Jessica or any?
Yeah, I really liked Jessica a lot.
Yeah.
I really like her a lot. I've read some of the Simon stuff, but of the newer Lanterns, like Jessica definitely resonated in a lot of ways, and just like also, yay, Lady Green Lantern.
Totally.
Like, no, she's really cool. But I think that is around when I started trailing off.
Sure.
Yeah, definitely.
DC lore.
That's fair. Yeah, I like Jessica.
All right, next question comes from Dan Hummer 97, who asks, what did you think of Kyle Rayner's time as Green Lantern in the late 90s, early 2000s? He seems to be a very underrated character. Go off, Heather.
Yeah, this is your
He's
time.
the best.
What is it about him that makes him the best to you?
I don't know. I think that I think to me, he and John are two of the most grounded and realistic characters in the Green Lantern universe. Totally. You know, and even John is still a bit hyperbolic, comic booky, but I think like Kyle is very open to the flaws of the Corps. Like Kyle, you know, is very open to the flaws of himself, of humanity. Like he, you know, and he's very much his own person. And I don't know, like there's and he's an artist, he's a comic artist, so but yeah, like I don't know, I felt, again, not to get very preachy, but like Hal and Guy in particular are very like toxic, ego driven,
yeah,
masculine, you know, like just like, oh my God, get over yourself, see a therapist, like deal with your shit. My God.
Yeah.
Very classic DC superheroes in that way.
Well, yeah. That's fair, yeah.
And then like John feels very though I love him as a character, he feels very pretentious and kind of preachy in a lot of ways too, in an attempt to be the antithesis of a lot of more stereotypical. So like Kyle to me was very much a breath of fresh air in DC in general, and of what a modern superhero and a more grounded and less hyperbolic person that I could be, that I could look up to, that you know, he's an everyman in a way that I think a lot of superheroes are not.
Yeah. I mean, there's a thing I like about Kyle, about how this person who, with no interest or desire or even like quote relevant experience, you know, if you think of like both Hal and John are like military guys, right? Like the idea of like falling into that core structure or whatever, that comes very natural or whatever. Kyle, someone just shows up and says, our entire Space Force is gone. You're the last one. See ya.
Here's a piece of jewelry.
and it's all on his shoulders, right? And then he has to learn it. He has to own it. He has to grow by himself. He becomes like the host of Ion for a bit. He's the torchbearer. He becomes the White Lantern. Like I like when DC recognizes that Kyle is bigger than the Corps. Whatever he's doing, it should either be outside or more than the Corps. You know, Hal or John leading the Corps makes a ton of sense. I kind of like that position for them. But Kyle is almost like a step apart, and I like when they recognize that.
Kyle, you know, Hal is very much, it's about his ego. Sure. You know, he's very, very ego driven. The fact that he is a Green Lantern is just hilarious to me. Because he would not be. But like Kyle very much is the like, it's not about me, you know? Yeah. It's very, he is willing to sacrifice himself for the greater good because it is the right thing to do.
Yeah, totally.
And it's very aspirational.
I love that. All right, well, let's do one last question.
Sure.
Which means we are leaving Instagram and heading it over to the Doc Scored.
Oh, shoot. Doc Scored, bam, a lamb.
Whoa,
Doc
that's
Scored,
good.
bam, a lamb.
Nice. That's a good one. So just creative as hell.
I don't know why I would make a bit where I have to come up with a new one every time.
I don't know.
You do this every time.
I have to throw the word Doc Scored into a new song every time because I'm dumb.
Hell yeah.
You need to retcon that.
I do.
We have never done anything like that.
We've never retconned anything in the show.
Ever. Yeah. All right. Last question from So Much Portuguese Irish Fury, who asks if I'm excited for Heather to answer this.
Okay.
If tomorrow you were given the reins of the Green Lantern books, what creative team or teams would you pick, and what books would you have? The rules are: you can't pick someone that is currently or has ever worked on a Green Lantern book.
Oh, geez Louise.
And there must be a penguin somewhere.
I mean, there's a penguin in every comic I do, so.
There we go.
Duh, there would be one. Do you guys know about the penguin thing?
I don't.
Oh.
I don't.
Okay. So yeah, I was like, which one of you runs the Twitter, basically?
That's me.
That explains. Do you want to explain, or should I?
No, go for it.
I love penguins. That's all you need to know.
Oh,
No.
yeah, they're cute little gentlemen. Yeah, I like them.
So anyone who knows anything about me, it knows I'm obsessed with penguins. The reason Gwenpool has a penguin backpack is that's my contribution.
Oh, okay.
If you look at any comic I've worked on, there's a good chance you'll see a penguin like stuck in there somewhere. I've had creators who, even though I've never worked on a DC book, I've had friends who work for DC who will like sneak a penguin and then to be like, look, there's a penguin here
That's
for
awesome.
you. So if you see a penguin in a comic book, like chances are it's in some way, shape, or form.
They're wearing little tuxedos. I get it. It's cute. Yeah.
Listen,
Yeah.
Dexter is a kitty cat with a red lantern ring. A random penguin could have demonstrated the will necessary to join.
Oh my God.
There is an Antarctica planet out there that is just all penguins in some sector.
There we go.
I'm just saying.
Perfect.
Now, the hard question.
The rest of this question, does any of this veer into territory where it's like that thing where like, I can't talk about this?
No. I mean, I have no affiliation with DC, so this is all completely fine. I don't know if there's been how many millions of Green Lantern books over the years?
Yeah, but I mean, there's kind of that the New 52 era is probably where it had the most kind of like as like a line, right? There was Green Lantern Corps, New Guardians, there was a Sinestro book, a Red Lanterns book. You know, that's probably where they had the most.
I loved so many of those. Like they were, getting Colin Bunn on a Yellow Lantern Sinestro book. Like that was genius. Justin Jordan's run on Green Lanterns was great. Like there's just so many, good stuff of that era.
It also doesn't have to be DC creators either. So
no. So I would do a Green Lantern book. Like it would just be Green Lantern. That's what I feel like. Yeah. That's but I think I would want to do like that story we talked about a little bit earlier where we go into the like how did these different rings, like a little bit more mythological in the book of Oa and like where the crystalline rings like really first came from and how they're emotionally driven.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like, I don't know, I think there would be something like to be done with being able to not manipulate, but work all of them together for ultimate power.
Is there? Do you feel like I've read a few different versions of like a Green Lantern Corps book, and it does feel like it still ends up, it's mostly just a way to center a different couple of characters. Do you think there's like a challenge to truly like rotating different core members into a book in the way that like the Legion of Superheroes seems to be like a lingering challenge?
I mean, team books are hard. Like that's the thing, and even as an editor, like if you're doing a team work versus a solo character book, like who is working on that book, like especially as the writer, like that is something that really you should be thinking of because it is hard. It's really, really hard to, and it takes different strengths. And there are people who are great at team books, but can't do, can't do a solo character book. So it is a different skill set. It's a different mindset. It's like drawing a comic book page is a different skill than drawing a cover. These are all, it's using different muscles and things like that. I would love to see Kelly Thompson take on a Green Lantern book. I think she could do a really good job.
That's awesome.
In that. Cause she's really good at emotional drama. And how that motivates, the characters. And what I think I love about Green Lantern versus a lot of other DC is the construct of Green Lanterns and how the mechanics of the ring and the books work is a lot closer to how Marvel stories work than DC stories work.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And Marvel, we're following Peter Parker's story. We're not following Spider-Man's story. We're following, Steve Rogers' story. We're following Tony Stark's story. We're following and what happens because they're the person with the mask.
Right.
And DC, you're following Batman. You're following Wonder Woman. You're following Superman. Yeah, they have, but it's about the person, not the mask. And a lot of times in DC, it's a lot more about the mask than it is the person.
Yeah, it's that old like DC as mythology, Marvel as what if they lived in our world.
Exactly.
Sort of thing. Yeah.
And Green Lantern is like kind of that in between of both in a way, because how many other truly other than the Robins, right? How many other titles in DC do you have a Kyle Rayner, a Guy Gardner, right? All of these Green Lanterns that you can arguably fight over who's the best one, who's the main one, DC doesn't have that. And so we can really attach ourselves to these characters and who we resonate and relate to the most. And I love that. And I think that's why Green Lantern resonates with me the most it really depends on who is wearing the ring.
Yeah. I love that.
Well, Heather, we've taken far too much of your time. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you. Do you have stuff you want to plug where people can find the stuff you're currently working on or cons you're going to be at?
Great Twitter follow.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter for all the penguins. I am at Heather Antos on all the things. Very easy to find me, to come say hi, put up with my dumb internet jokes. Have a good time. And then I'm going to be at San Diego. I'm going to be at Boston. I'm going to be at New York Comic Con. So if you're any of those, please come say
One of the cons, you will find her.
I will. Yes, I'm at all of them all the time, always.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for making time. This was a lot of fun. I was happy to talk Green Lantern and just funny that this seems to be the one spot you haven't really kind of touched yet in comics. So maybe one day we'll get Heather over at DC, right?
All right, Heather. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, Heather is gone, but we are not done.
Yeah, time to be gross again. I think the starkest one of that was when we had Dr. Travis Langley on.
Oh my God, we were like, such good boys.
Yes, sir. Then what did you do?
You're a real doctor.
And then he left. We were like, hey, bunch of cucks. Come. That was a lot of fun.
But we are not done.
Okay. We're never done.
No. It's time to play everybody's favorite game.
All right.
Can you guess the name of a character based on someone who's not read comic books can describe that character to us? If you don't know how this works, because you're clearly a Heather Antos fan and you don't listen to this stupid podcast, but you're still here, I send a photo of a DC character.
How many people do you think just shut it off?
Sweetie. I send a photo of a DC character to my wife who does not read comic books, nor does she care for them. She sends back 4 clues describing what she sees. The doctor tries to figure out who this character might be.
I'm ready.
Are you ready?
I just said I was ready. Listen.
I know, but
think.
The tone, I just was like, it feels like maybe you're not really ready.
I'm never ready.
Yeah, your numbers have not been good, so.
Shut the fuck up.
All right, first of
piece of shit.
4 clues. Here we go. First clue is great dental health.
Hyena.
No.
Tooth Man.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
No.
He's working in the R&D department at the dentist's office. Fell into some experimental fillings.
Experimental teeth.
Yeah. Next clue, please.
Okay, next clue. Latex lover.
So far, this character has teeth and is wearing a superhero costume.
Latex.
Yeah, that only helps so much. Teeth and latex. I don't know. Mad Harriet.
No.
Punchline.
No.
Next clue, please.
Okay, third of 4 clues. Here we go. Nazi punk doctor.
Dr. Poison?
It is Dr. Poison.
Hey!
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, the clue after that would have been not scared of needles, and I was like, either one of those is going to give you Dr. Poison.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, he's back.
One of me. One of me.
There we go.
There we go. I will be trying to make that a bit, by the way.
A joke just for us, and I don't care. All right, maybe one of you residents was able to get teeth means Dr. Poison. Let us know if you're able to get the clue this week. Tell us how much you love Heather Antos.
Yeah, that was a ton of fun.
Yeah, do we have a next week's episode we can send in questions for?
Yes. But the hope is still to do the Justice League Unlimited episode.
Oh, that's
with,
right.
Alex Jaffe.
Holy shit. That's right, because if we have one guest, we have 4 guests.
That's how guests work.
If you decide to have guests, you open up the floodgate until you close it.
You just keep the door open.
Yeah. And then
wafting the smell of food
as
outside.
many guests as you can get,
until
and then you close it.
Take it anymore.
And you close it.
Yeah.
And you decide 6 months later
Lock
to have
the
them.
door if you're coming in.
That's right. Lock the door if you're recording a podcast. All right. So you could send those questions to us through our various social media platforms like our Facebook,
Dr. DC Podcast.
our Twitter,
At Dr. DC.
our Instagram,
Dr. DC Podcast.
our email,
drdcpodcast@gmail.com.
our subreddit.
r/Dr_DC.
I mean, every platform that we have is a sub-platform.
Oh, I mean, yeah. Yeah, it is.
Is
I don't know. You tell me. We can't both be the sub.
Can we?
Are we? We're just playing questions only. From
Yes,
like,
that's
Whose
right.
Line?
Oops, all questions.
We've renamed the game questions only to Oops, all subs.
Saying the same thing, I think. So we have a doc phone that you can call into.
That's right. 208-917-3238.
That's 208-917-DCEU.
If you're nasty.
That's correct. We are young and cool, and we are on TikTok.
At Dr. DC.
Don't ask to look at my For You page. Don't worry about it.
I mean, truly.
My
it's not
wife.
my fault.
Stop asking my wife. Why don't you go to our website?
drdcpodcast.com or .ca.
So the only people that seem to want to go there want to give me boner pills, which I'm okay with. That's fine. I need them.
Yeah. Or the elusive pussy@vag.com.
Oh, that's of course. Or you want me to buy some Jordans? That's that.
Oh, yeah, that comes up.
Yeah. Also, why don't you give us a 5-star review?
Yeah, why don't you?
Yeah. Don't you?
Yeah, don't you wish your podcast was 5 of stars?
Don't ya? So wherever you get the podcast, why don't you give us 5-star review there? Or if you've already done that, go to another platform.
Yeah, or sign your folks up.
Yeah. Even if they're dead.
Also, while you're there on like Apple
Yeah.
Or whatever, go over to Apple Music or iTunes or
here we
Spotify
go.
or whatever.
Nice.
And check out Stand Up North, Shredded and Dead. It's an album of Yukon comedians that happens to feature me. It was Richard put that together with Just for Laughs. So yeah, go check that out.
That's right. And just fucking play it a whole bunch.
Yeah, just keep it on in the background.
Yeah, call in radio stations for it.
Yeah, and play it on your phone on the call.
Yeah. That's right. Don't you wish your station played comedy
Jokes
like this?
like these.
Yeah, there. Also, why don't you send us some physical mail?
Yeah.
You could send us, money or things worth money.
Jesus. 301 Hogue Street, HOGE Street, Whitehorse, Yukon, Canada, Y1A1V8.
It's either Richard Eden or Reed Vanier. Speaking of sending us money, if you want to get something out of it, you can subscribe to our Patreon.
Yeah, baby. Patreon.com/
We have a $5 and a
DC.
$7 level.
There's a $1, $5, and $7 level. They all give you access to the Discord, but those higher levels give you bonus episodes, videos, theme polls, all sorts of fun stuff that helps to support us.
Exactly. Speaking of us, we do other things, including another podcast.
Ghostfacers, a Supernatural rewatch. We're going through every single episode of the CW Supernatural. We talk about real world monster lore, behind the scenes stuff about the show. It's a ton of fun.
That's right, you fucking goons.
Oh my God.
It's still July-Italian month.
July-Italian month?
That's right.
Hey, we're potting here.
No, we're not, because we're done.
You want to get to Spider-Man? You gotta go through us.
Ciao, ciao.
Adios.
All the superheroes, they always fight for what is right. Live with danger and adventure, they are men of might.
This was a Brain Freeze podcast.
Oh, so diverse.
Hey, Capico.
Oh my God, so culturally relevant.